Hello and welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair, that VidBlaster guy, coming to you with what I hope is going to be another exciting episode of VidBlaster. You just never ever know. We were doing some things in pre-show, and you just never know how things are going to work around here. Somebody made the comment, it's kind of like the days of TV when it first came out. Yeah, when things didn't work right. But it is real. This is the ultimate in kind of tech reality TV. That is, you get to watch me screw up. We were also talking about how it's kind of like auto racing. You know, everybody secretly wishes for the crash, and I think the live audience here is interested in when things fall apart. No, I know that's not true, and they're very sympathetic when it does. The idea behind this show is that one guy with one PC can do a really good broadcast. No, one guy, one PC, one awesome broadcast. That's the ticker for this show. And I want to show you how to do it. And I think VidBlaster is a great way to do it. Now, you've got to have the right PC, and we'll talk about that in just a second. You got to be a guy. I mean, I don't mean that. That was really sexist. You don't have to be a whole room full of people, and you don't have to have a whole room full of PCs. And if you've got the right software, it's really helpful. And VidBlaster is my first love in live streaming software. And in fact, version 4.07 is due out any second now. It's the latest, greatest beta. And it's going to be great. You can go to the VidBlaster forum, which is forum.vidblaster.com, and find out about that. Scroll down to the downloads section, and you can see all the various downloads over the years of different versions and the beta versions. 4.06 is what I'm using today, July 8th, 2015. Coming up in version 4.07 will be a couple of changes. Not earth-shattering, but they could be earth-shattering depending on where you are. For years and years, the max streaming bit rate in VidBlaster Home, VidBlaster Pro, and VidBlaster Studio was 1 Mbps, 1 Mbps. And if you were trying to do high definition, it's hard to squeeze high definition into 1 meg. So effective with version 4.07, which is due out momentarily, we hope, the Studio Edition can now stream up to 5 megs. Now, I'm hoping that they're going to bump the Pro Edition up to 2.5, which I think would be great, because a standard definition feed of, say, 840 by 480, which is kind of like 640 by 480, but it's the widescreen version, 864 by 480. That you really need about 1500 K BPS or 1.5 megs to make that look good at 30 frames a second. So hopefully they'll see the wisdom in that at VidBlaster headquarters and bump that one up just a little bit for the Pro users, because we would expect that Pro folks would want to be able to do standard definition and have it look good. So the max bit rate in the Studio Edition will now go up to 5 megs. I think currently in the Broadcast Edition it's up to 30 megs, which is probably, most folks can deal with 30 megs. The other is that for a short period of time in between version 3. Whatever the last version 3 was, in version 4, the Home Edition, when the old camera module was kind of eliminated, it eliminated the way folks that had the Home Edition could use an IP cam. And so for a short period of time, if you had the Home Edition and you were using an IP cam and you wanted to upgrade to version 4, you were SOL, because there was no IP cam ability. The camera module that had that had been eliminated, and the IP decoder, which is the module that does that, wasn't available in the Home Edition. Well, as of version 4.07, which again is yet to come out momentarily, 4.07 will allow folks that have the home edition to use the IP decoder. And in fact, you can use multiple IP decoders. So if you're picking up multiple IP cams, you can do that now with version 4.07. So that's going to be kind of fun when that comes out, and we'll make sure we review that for you when it happens. Full disclosure on my end, I am an authorized VidBlaster reseller and designer and builder of custom PCs for streaming. So if this sounds like a bit of an infomercial, well, it probably is a little bit. And I try to stay away from that, but I just want you guys to know that I have a vested interest in VidBlaster and streaming PCs. I want to be, as transparent with you as I possibly can. The show today, and I went into it a little bit on last week's show, but I want to delve into it a little bit more. The show today is being streamed and recorded on a new piece of hardware. I've been working on a test bed for some different equipment and finally got it finished. Well, they're never really finished. The previous production PC, I stopped putting the case back on it because I was constantly going in there and moving cards around and doing things, and just said, we'll just leave the case off. It probably cools better anyway. But the quote-unquote new test bed is really sort of a Frankenstein monster. It has equipment that I've just been sort of collecting around, and so I threw it all together. I had an old, I guess, first generation Intel i7, the 2600K chip, which is a quad core. The K means it's overclockable. And I put that on an AS, AS Rock motherboard, and it's doing really well. In fact, got it clocked up to 4.0 gigahertz with seemingly no problem until last week's show when we started recording and streaming 2 streams and doing all that we were doing. The CPU temperature went up to 90 degrees centigrade, which is like, 180 Fahrenheit or something like that. I mean, absolutely scalding. And as a result, what happened was that the system began to throttle itself down in order to save the CPU, which is good. I mean, you want that to happen. You don't want to burn up your CPU. But it introduced some video artifacts into the show. Right now, just for comparison, we're right at 69 degrees centigrade, which is still hot. That's still pretty warm. That's 156 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'll get into why there's such a difference in temperature too in just a second. But we're a lot more stable at 4 gigahertz on that old i7 chip. I can't wait to be able to upgrade that to the latest greatest. Maybe put even a little 6-core chip in there. The rest of the build is around about a 250 solid-state hard drive. It's the Intel hard drive. Solid-state drive, not a solid-state hard drive. Solid-state drive. Today we're using the Logitech C920 as our main camera because we haven't put the Intensity Pro card in this new PC yet, but we have put in a AJA Kona 4, which is a 4-port capture card up to 4K. It's a really slick card, but it doesn't work with VidBlaster. There's some driver direct show stuff that I'm not able to manipulate enough, and that Mike would have to do that with VidBlaster to get it to work. But it's a really cool card, and I think it's worth a good look by VidBlaster headquarters. Was talking with AJA rep earlier, Eric Norrell, who's formerly with Wirecast, and he said that they are looking at some lower cost cards, 4-port capture cards that would have their same high technology or high definition technology built in, but probably wouldn't have as many bells and whistles and would probably have a little bit more of a consumer interface. Currently, most of theirs are SDI for broadcasting. And I said, sure would be nice to have a little 4-port capture card, HDMI on the 4 ports, and have your quality built in. On our next segment coming up here, about 3:45 Eastern Time, on Streaming Idiots, we'll be showing you the Kona 4 card. So be sure to hang around for that, or if you're watching us on YouTube, check out that one too. We'll make sure that we note that. The other part of this build that was significant, and the significant difference between last week and this week, is the addition of an old piece of hardware that we had sitting around on the shelf, which is a Corsair liquid cooler. This is the H55. I think it's been discontinued, but I just happen to have one in the box. And so you can see the radiator on the left, the heat sink on the right. The heat sink's got a pump built into it, and it basically swaps fluid through that little radiator. And the radiator's mounted in the case. Don't have a picture of the case available for you right now. And then a fan is mounted on the radiator that pushes air through the radiator to the outside of the PC. So that's a pretty slick little system, and as I can tell, let's see, we've gone from 90 degrees plus to 69 degrees, so it's a 20 degree centigrade difference. And I think our stream is streaming a little less. Well, the CPU is not throttling, so so everything is working better. The recording is probably going to be better. The streaming is better, and the audio is better. So that's a win-win-win all the way around. And the only difference was swapping out the stock cooler for this water cooler. And I think the water cooler was probably about $80 when I bought it. I think they're up to the H70 now, which may be $89, something like that. It's sort of the same basic footprint with a radiator and the tubes and the heat sink with the pump mounted on top of that. And let me go back to that photo just a second. You can see a little wire. See the round thing on the bottom right, and there's a three wire connector coming off that. That plugs into the CPU fan port, and so that's what gives you that's what powers the pump. And then of course the fan you would plug into a fan jack. And I think right now, let's see, the fan is running at 1300 RPM, so it's not very fast, and it seems to be cruising pretty nicely. The PC is not in the same room that I'm in right now. It's in an adjacent closet, and so by being in the closet, it tends to be a little bit warmer in there, but it's a darn sight quieter, so we don't have all the fan noise. So I wasn't really worried about fan noise, but I was very pleased that the fan that came with the Corsair was pretty darn quiet. So that's the hardware setup today, and we seem to be, let's see if I can bring up that graphic we had last week. We can see that we're going at 60, 54, 46, and this is streaming 720 and 180 and recording at 720. I hope we're recording. It's like, whoops. Hate it when I forget that, but no, we are recording. We're good. We're good on that one. The other thing I realized today as I was setting it up, I was chatting with somebody in pre-show, chatting with Dave in pre-show about macros and VidBlaster and shortcuts in vMix, and because I've been working on some shortcuts in vMix this morning in pre-show, and thought, okay, well, I can't wait to fire VidBlaster up, show off my macros, and then forgot this is a new PC. This is I have to recreate the macros or else bring the profiles over, and I don't think I brought the profiles over for the macros. So I went to hit my button, which brings up essentially this shot right here with the chroma key. Well, it takes this shot and it drops in that in the background, so we end up with that, and then I can overlay this and overlay that, and that's how I get the shot. And the macro basically put all those pieces together so that they would come up as one, and that's stored under the F1 key in the VidBlaster macros, which is just what I told it to do. So I hit F1 without having the macros, and of course the VidBlaster help popped up. So that was one of those things. I was like, oh yeah, got to get the macros working again. I have this is kind of interesting, and this is VidBlaster related. I have been approached, kind of a low-key backdoor approach from a CDN that specializes in church streaming. And as soon as I get their permission, I'll tell you who they are. And they said, we really need somebody that has some experience to help us with our churches that want to use our service but really don't know where else to start. They don't know where to start with software, they don't know where to start with hardware, and they end up spending a lot of money unnecessarily and not getting what they say they want or what they really do need. He said, what we need is somebody that we can trust that is that can build PCs and have them ready to ship quickly for folks that are interested in a church PC. And I said, well, we do that already. We could certainly build some of them, have them ready to ship. So he said, okay, put together some specs, and we put together some specs, and they said, hey, those specs look great. So we're really excited about that, and we'll be launching a new website maybe next week or the week after. Just have to see how quickly we can get to it, called churchstreampc.com. It just happened to be the only URL that I could find, Churchstream PC. So if you're interested in a PC for your church, or somebody that's looking around at that, you can direct them to Churchstream PC, and we should have something up there later. And these will be, there's always a temptation in building a PC. I mean, there's the tension, that's probably a better word, between getting as inexpensive as possible but using quality components. And so we've tried to sort of, as best you can, blend those two worlds so that we're getting quality components, but also keeping the price down. One of the ways to keep the price down is, for example, not to use a fancy case. If you use a plain Jane case, you can knock $100, $150 off the price. So and I got distracted by somebody in the chat room saying, will there be a new show to go with this? Maybe. I hadn't thought about that. That would be a lot of fun. But I think we've hit on the right combination of economy versus or economy and reliability and good full features. For example, one of the things that we put in this new PC, one of the specs, has been a pretty strong video graphics card. Now, this is not the card that captures graphics. This is the card that displays graphics on the screen. And the reason for that is so that, number one, you can run more than one monitor. But number two, because some of the softwares do make use of the video card in the processing of the video. And so it helps to have a card that has enough horsepower in it to be able to do that, kind of offload some of that process from the CPU. So we put together a package. Looks like it's gonna sell for about $2,000, and then you can choose whatever software you want. So the software would be in addition to that. And at this point, we have both the various vMixes available and the various VidBlasters available too. So more on that later. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound like a big commercial, but it was pretty exciting to have folks approach us and say, hey, would you consider And yeah, of course we'll consider. I mean, the whole idea behind this show is we want to be a source of reliable information that you can use to base your decisions on. And sometimes that initial decision in pulling the trigger on a PC, it's hard to get it right the first time. It doesn't mean you can't change it later, but if you're buying an off-the-shelf PC from Best Buy or someplace like that, obviously it's more difficult to make modifications. If you're building it yourself, yes, you've got some flexibility there, but if you've never built one before, or if you've only built one or two, it doesn't mean you're doing a bad job, but sometimes there are ways to do it better. And having built bunches of them, I think I can bring a little bit extra to the table and hopefully have a little bit of integrity that folks can trust. I mean, for example, we're going to give a 3-year parts and labor warranty. If something breaks and you didn't break it, then we'll fix it. And then the software and the support for the PC, that is the tech support, are unlimited. I won't say unlimited. I like to say lifetime. Yours or mine, whichever comes first. But in these days, PCs are obsolete, certainly within 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. Yeah. Cute story as a side trip. I have an elderly mother who might be watching this show. Hi, Mom. But who is PC literate, probably at about, no offense, Mom, but probably about a 3rd grade level. And she called the other day and said, I can't get my PC to work. It just won't come on. And I need a new one, is what she said. I think she just wanted a visit from her son. But nevertheless, it was pretty funny. And we went back and forth a few times. And I knew my brother was going to be visiting soon, so I didn't even try to troubleshoot it with her. I just said, it's okay, Mom, we'll work it out. If we can't get that one running, we'll get you one that will. I hated the thought of introducing a new PC to her, especially something that was based on Windows 8 or 8.1. It was like, oh, God, don't force her to learn something new. So brother shows up, and he reaches down and presses the on button. And on it comes, and she's like, what's that noise? She had forgotten to turn it on. So anyway, we will all be there one day. Sooner or later, we will all be there one day where we will need somebody to assist us, and hopefully they'll be gracious and won't poke fun at us all over the world on the internet. Oh, sorry, Mom. Anyway, but it is a good theme in tech support that try the simple stuff first. I know we've talked about this in the past. Try the simple stuff first. Don't assume it's the worst. Assume it's the easiest thing. Is it plugged in? Start with the simple stuff. And you'd be amazed how many times it really is the simple stuff, and you've saved yourself all this other troubleshooting problems. Although sometimes it's not the simple stuff. Doing tech support for my 21-year-old college student son, who brought me, after going online or doing TeamViewer with him and trying to fix him remotely, he finally just brought it back and said, okay, Dad, fix it. And it took me the better part of 2 days to track down the problem and to fix it. I mean, finally I could find the problem, I just couldn't fix it, so we just had to reinstall the operating system. But that took 4 tries to get it to where it was right. So don't give up. Whatever you're doing, don't give up. Well, we have approached the end of our time here. Thank you for being with me. Remember, version 4.07 in VidBlaster is coming out shortly. Check back at forum.vidblaster.com and find out. You can download it. It's a free download. It's a trial edition. It's unlimited, which means you can use that trial edition for a lifetime, whichever comes first. And it does have a little watermark, but other than that, it's the equivalent to the Studio edition. And it will have all the bells and whistles that the Studio. And that's a great way to test VidBlaster on a PC and see, is it going to run? Is it going to run? Load some videos up in there and get them going. Watch that CPU usage meter and see how it's doing. And that way you can get a feel for it. Go ahead and record some stuff and see if it records smoothly. There are lots of ways that you can play with it, even without a camera. And heck, with webcams, you can pop a webcam into a PC pretty quickly. So that's coming up shortly, 4.07. Keep an eye out for it. If you've got some questions, shoot me an email, tom@thatvidblasterguy.com. I'm delighted to answer your questions. If I get some really good questions, of course, I'm going to answer them here on the air. And you're always invited to visit us live so that you can participate in the chat room where those guys, you never know what they're going to be talking about in the chat room. And it's always a joy. Oh, and for our YouTube watchers, thank you for tuning in with YouTube and making it to the end of the broadcast. And please subscribe because we're generally posting good stuff every week. So that's it. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. And we will see you again next time.